There's something weird about this building. I live around there, I walk past it all the time, but I've never seen anyone go in or out. The windows are always shut and there's basically no sign of life. And it's because this building is completely fake. Alright, so what do you think is in this building? My personal theories are that it could be a secret government building, or maybe even people are living there illegally. And we have quite a few fake buildings to check out today, so let's investigate and see what's really going on there. So this building is in my neighborhood of Batignolles. It's a residential neighborhood that has gentrified a lot. Like right now in this exact street, a 2-bedroom apartment can go up to €1 million, which is definitely a lot of money. So this building is prime real estate. So this building kind of blends in with the street, but it's a bit different since it's made of bricks, which makes me think that it's an old social housing building from the 1920s or 1930s. Also, everything is closed. It looks like no one's there. It's not very inviting. The windows are tinted so you can't see inside. There's bars on the lower floor windows. And honestly, apart from that, this building looks pretty normal. But if you look at it from above, you'll notice something weird. There's a ton of ACs on the roof. And if you know Paris, you know that this is not normal. We do not have ACs here. But a dead giveaway for this fake building is obviously this little plaque by the door, which tells me that this fake building is actually a big data center with a bunch of servers inside. And servers, they tend to generate a lot of heat. So this is why all the ACs are there. And Paris has a network of data centers that are hidden all around the city for security reasons. And as normal people, we often have no idea. And as you will see in this video, Paris is full of fake buildings. And we're gonna explore quite a few of them. But this one we're biking to has to be one of the most mysterious and also famous fake buildings of Paris. Like, it has its own Wikipedia page. It has been featured in a book that calls it the entrance to the underworld. And also it blends in so well that I almost missed it. So if you don't look too closely, it just looks like any normal building you would find in Paris. But if you take a look at the doors, you will see that they are not made to be opened by any normal human being. And it's because they are completely fake. Like, you cannot enter this building through the front door, and they just added doors and door handles to blend in better with the street. And one thing that's crazy about this building is that it's completely flat. Like, if you look at it from above, you will see that it's just a nice looking front, and then behind there's nothing. It's basically a giant hole that serves as an air vent for the RERB, which is a commuter train that goes to the suburbs. Also, if you peek through the windows, you can actually see the scaffolding that holds the facade together. And by the way, the windows are definitely not fake. A few years ago, a French YouTuber went viral because he actually managed to climb into this building from the roof and open the windows. And I feel since then quite a lot of people have done that because there are definitely a few graffitis that are inside the fake building. And right now, if you're like me, you're probably wondering why they went above and beyond to make a subway air vent look so nice. And you'll see in the rest of the video, some of the other fake buildings don't look like that at all and are actually pretty controversial. But for this one in particular, I actually learned that it used to be a real building with people living in it. If you look at these old photos of Paris from above, taken in the 1950s, there was no hole before. It was just a normal building. They just destroyed everything and kept the facade. And to understand why they did that and why this fake building is so important to Paris, I need to tell you about this guy. This is Haussmann, and he's the reason why Paris has this really beautiful uniform look that I feel makes the city so special. Before the 19th century, Paris didn't look as good as it does today. There were a lot of old buildings from the Middle Ages that were falling apart and were also really cramped, so people were constantly getting sick due to the poor living conditions. And in 1853, Haussmann came in and he was basically given full powers to redesign Paris in a better way. So he went ahead and he tore down entire neighborhoods and thousands of buildings, and instead he built the elegant buildings and wide avenues we still have today in Paris. Haussmann really wanted to achieve a uniform look, so he put some really strict rules in place. And this is why a lot of the buildings in Paris look the same. They have the same height, the same facades, and the same balconies. Haussmann's influence on Paris was huge because today around 60% of all of Paris buildings are Haussmann type buildings, including the fake building we've been looking at. And these Haussmann type buildings are really iconic, and in my opinion, they are what makes Paris Paris, at least visually. And they are very important historically, and there's a lot of effort that goes into preserving them and making sure Paris stays looking this way. So this is why we have this fake building, because we're not gonna destroy a Haussmann type building to just create an air vent. So a lot of the fake buildings in Paris really blend in nicely with their surroundings and are so hard to spot just by looking at them. It would be impossible to notice this one without looking closely at the front door. There you can see that it belongs to the RATP, which is the company that runs Paris public transport. But if you look at it from above, you can see that it's just another hollow building that hides another subway air vent. Or even this one that I feel looks really cute, but is in fact a power station for the subway. The giant air vent on the side is kind of a giveaway though. But not all fake buildings are created equal. Well, the ones I just showed you just blend in so perfectly that it's impossible to know they are fake. Some other buildings, well, I'll let you look at this. So this incredibly ugly building houses a giant electrical transformer and was built in 1972. And remember this date, it's gonna be important. It's wedged in between two beautiful buildings and it stands out in the worst way possible. Like seriously, this is why we need good city planning. Imagine moving to Paris, expecting the view from your apartment to look like this, and then you end up having to stare at this thing every morning. And before we go to the next building, I want to tell you about today's sponsor, Vasco. Their Vasco Translator E1 will allow you to speak fluently in over 50 languages, and it is really easy to use. You can just use their app to pick which language you'll be translating into, and then grab an earbud for yourself and give an earbud to the person you want to talk to, and that's it. The earbuds go over your ear, by the way, not inside your ear, which I feel is way cleaner. Since my native language is French and my boyfriend Bobby is American, we tested it by having a conversation in our native languages, and I was so impressed at how fast the translation is.
Je vais essayer de parler en français et puis normalement ça doit te traduire en anglais en même temps.
Wow, so cool.
Notre conversation est vraiment fluide, je trouve, même si on parle pas la même langue.
It is. It's so crazy.
So if you want to communicate in the local language anywhere you are, I recommend you try the Vasco Translator E1. You can click the link in the description below and use my code for a discount. Alright, but here's something scarier. Paris almost ended up with a lot more buildings like this. So let me tell you the story of how Paris almost became ugly in the 60s and 70s. At the time, France was growing really fast, and people were obsessed with a certain idea of modernity, which included two main steps. One, destroying beautiful buildings that were too old to be saved instead of renovating them. And apparently this got pretty intense because according to historian Pierre Pinon, half of the 13th district and a third of the 12th were destroyed during this time. And then step 2 was pretty much adding concrete everywhere to make room for cars. And seriously, it got pretty crazy because they even had a project to turn Canal Saint-Martin, which is this objectively very cute spot that has been featured in many movies, into a 4-lane highway. And from my research, it sounded less crazy at the time because the canal was not reused that much and looked already like a parking lot. And just so you know, I'm not a snob, I have nothing against modern buildings in general, but I feel it's almost a crime to want to destroy something that looks like this and then turn it into this. And yes, that's a real proposal from 1972, which was a really fateful year because people wanted to build this. And I really need to share this story with you because this project completely changed the face of Paris and is the reason why we have so many fake buildings today in Paris. So picture this. The year is 1841. Paris' newest hotspot just opened, and it's this building called La Maison Dorée, which means the Golden House. And just like its name, it's really fancy, and it's one of the most expensive restaurants in town. It's in all the guides. People love to go there to party and have a good time. But by the turn of the 20th century, the restaurant closes and the building starts to progressively fall apart. And by the 70s, no one cares about it anymore. It is being used as storage when French bank BNP buys it with plans of destroying the whole thing and build offices instead. As a reminder, this was their proposal. This is what it would have looked like in the street. Luckily, people pushed back and it became a pretty big thing. The French government had to step in and they blocked the project and they required the bank to preserve the facade. facade. And I'm no architect, but let me tell you, this is no small feat. It's incredibly complicated from a technical point of view, and it ended up costing way more than expected, but it was all for the best because now we have one of the fanciest fake buildings ever. So from the street, it looks like any beautiful historical building you'd see in Paris. It's made of stone, it has really nice balconies, and also if you look closely, it has really intricate details that make me so happy the facade was preserved. Like seriously, look at these sculptures, they're just so beautiful. But then if you take a side street, things get pretty crazy. This building is all business in the front, party in the back, because it's actually a massive 1970s office building. Like look at this, you can actually see the exact point when the nice facade becomes this thing. And the 1970s part of the building is pretty big too. And you can also really see the contrast if you look at these satellite images. Like here is the old part of the building, it's just the front, it's super skinny, it's just here for decor, and then everything behind it is the modern building. Like it feels almost like a movie set to me. And personally, I feel really happy that those people in the 70s complained, because the back of the building is just not as beautiful. On one side, the facade is almost art, and then you have this thing that just looks normal, but it's really ugly in comparison. And this was actually one of the first few times when Paris did this whole fake building thing, you know, keeping only the historical front of the building while replacing the rest. And I have to tell you that this is still a controversial idea even years later. Like for this building in particular, a lot of people wish they had kept the original building and renovated everything, not just the front. But some other people think it's a great way to keep Paris' charm while making room for more modern buildings. And wherever you stand, either way, this building reset the trend. And after that, the whole idea of only keeping the facade really took off. And this is why we have a lot of buildings that are not what they seem in Paris. Like, for example, we have this bakery that's now a clothing store, this place where you could sell horses that now sells socks, and then this very controversial department store called La Samaritaine that also makes a whole new building with an old front. And also we have my personal favorite, which is this 19th century building that's dedicated to the king of beer, this little guy here, and that's now a McDonald's. Like this building is so funny, it really stands out in the street, and there's even a stork on the roof to stay on theme, since this building is inspired by the French region of Alsace. Anyways, these are really fun Easter eggs hidden a bit everywhere around Paris, and if you want to go on a little treasure hunt, I've added all of this to my Paris Secrets map that has all my favorite spots to visit in Paris, including some hidden ones. And that's all for me today. If you enjoyed the video, you should check out one of these. I'll see you there.